So the headlines read that Ryan Davis has gone on Shannon Sharpe's podcast and called his 10-year-old daughter a gold digger. And even though this did not happen, many content creators are going to justify their clickbait titles by saying, well, even though that wasn't what he said, it's pretty much what he meant, or it was the gist of it. My problem with it is his now 11-year-old daughter has found several pieces of this content and she's distraught to the point that her very private mother has had to come and make comments under different posts. The truth is, many of you were triggered because you have your own father wounds and you're projecting. We can grant grace for unhealed trauma, but my problem is many of you are inadvertently insulting this child in your attempts to insult Ryan and in particular his looks. That's unforgivable. So I'm going to attempt to make this video in a way to where if it finds her, that I as a grown Black woman and a mom wouldn't feel like I have anything to apologize for. A lot of you are going to say, who even is Ryan Davis? So let's start there. I became familiar with Ryan Davis several years ago through his joke where he either coined or at the very least popularized the term homosexual. He's appeared in multiple shows. The most popular for me was Insecure. I was happy to see him on there. And then since then, he's also self-funded his own comedy special. And he's gotten major nods from some of my faves like Ali Sadiq and Kev on Stage. It's mostly because his comedy style reminds you of a young Dave Chappelle. It's thought-provoking, it's not lowbrow, it's social commentary, holding a mirror up to society and making you think and a little bit uncomfortable. And now a bit of mental and childhood framework. Ryan has spoken publicly about his battles with his weight, depression to the point of ideation. And he did state in this interview that he's now past that point and has no more ideas of self-harm. However, depression does still come and go. He was born to a mom who had 4 children between the ages of 13 and 19, married to his much older father, and they had a toxic marriage, not a lot of money. Sometimes because of taking other relatives in, there were maybe 13 people to one 3-bedroom home. He's now in therapy, working on the anger that he has towards his father for his father's mistreatment of his mother, which then poisoned and harmed the relationship that he has with his mother. He's working on getting back on speaking terms with his mom, but his most important goal right now, even above career, is repairing his relationship with his daughter. And with that, I'm going to play the clip without the piss poor choice of words so that you can hear everything that he said before and after to give you the proper framework for his statement. Let's get into it.
My daughter saved my life. I'm not a very motivated person. But when we went and got that ultrasound and they said it's a girl, I knew I couldn't be a mediocre man anymore because it would affect how she viewed men in general. And she would be okay with a mediocre man. I worked harder than I ever worked in my life because of her. She's my reason. And she was a daddy's girl, big time. And to watch that daddy's girl go from I just want to be around him, sleep on him, be cuddled up to him, to like I lost her. And it takes a long time to get them back. And so for me, that was the one thing about this whole custody agreement. Me and their mother was talking and she was like, Dad, it's like you're trying to get so much time. I'm like, yeah, that's all that matters. Because once it's gone, it's gone.
You do realize that there are going to be some times that where you probably want to be on the road and should be on the road. You're not going to be on the road.
Nah,
right?
The summers is theirs. You got to pay me to supplement the fact that I'm bringing them with me.
Wow.
If it ain't that,
it ain't worth it.
It ain't worth it. My son, thank God I got it right before it happened with him. Like I'm Superman in his eyes.
Right.
And she used to see me like that. And my daughter, like I get glimpses. She cares. She wants me, but there's the fear of giving her all to me and it being taken
and you're
away.
gone again.
And I'm gone again.
We're going to take a brief pause right here to reflect on what he actually says, and then we'll listen to the rest of what he said. He said that this baby girl saved his life, made him work harder. He misses the time when she was a daddy's girl, but he knows that that is his fault, that he's going to work harder to win her back, and that he's asked for more custody with her and her little brother, over the summer, and that she is the reason why he's a better father to the little brother. He learned from his mistakes that he made with her, but he understands that the hesitancy that she has with him and the reason why they're not as close is due to his own inconsistency. Again, my video is being made with her in mind, but also for all of those other triggered people with the father wound that made them handle this particular situation so indelicately. If you all really claim to decenter men, then you should have centered this baby and her feelings in this conversation and in your content. And what that looks like is highlighting all of this instead of the only part that you all chose to focus on, which was his poor choice of words saying this.
My daughter went from, I love my dad, to let me see what I can get out of him. And when she started looking at me as access to like material things.
You were an ATM. Now all of a sudden you weren't dad, you were an ATM.
Now, framework and editing and context matters. So I just wanted to note that the comment about not a father, just an ATM came from Shannon Sharpe, which is a person that we've known in recent headlines to have his idea of fatherhood and finance and family a bit confused. If you don't know what I'm referring to, you can read the graphic and that headline. Now go back and listen to what Ryan said in context, because before and after he said the thing about it just being transactional, he was describing to you how they got there. They used to spend quality time together, and then due to his career taking off, that was no longer an option. So now all you can do is send money or give money because you're not there for the times to cuddle and hug, so forth and so on. He's actually taking accountability, not insulting or blaming his daughter. And to further bring that on home, let me play the rest of the clip.
And how do you explain to a 10-year-old?
But they don't understand.
They homeschool.
Have the access to things that you have. It's because.
Do you know you live in a house with a parent that ain't never got to worry about nothing? You know how many people get raised like that? Not many. It's not for them to get. You got to meet them where they are. You got to get on a child's level. It ain't the time to pat yourself on the back. I got to do the work.
So to wrap it up, what he's saying is he understands the trade-off between time and money. And whereas his time chasing his career is giving his children a better life, they don't understand that because they're children. Also, it's not for them to understand because they're children. What just needs to happen is he needs to do the work. So now that we got context straight, Ryan, go ahead and come to the front of the congregation, because I know you didn't think you were getting off easy. And if you or the listening audience did, then you must be new to the channel. So go ahead and subscribe so that you can get out of the echo chamber and get into this well thought out content. Editing and context aside, Ryan, your word choice was still piss poor. And I'm not a licensed therapist, so I'm glad that you're going to one. What I would suggest, though, is that in your next session, you all work on how to continue to effectively communicate your feelings, even when emotions are high. Because I noticed that you were literally choking back tears at the mention of trying to talk about your children. And the fact that you suppress that emotion is really a part of the problem. See, that's that toxic remnant of the patriarchy, which is the underlying cause of all of this. And I'm going to prove it to you later. But what the patriarchy taught men was not only that you can't be emotional, but also to prioritize being a provider above and beyond anything else. And as long as you do that, everything else should either be overlooked or forgiven. And that is why you find yourself trying to patch 3 generations of family wounds with money when it's actually going to be time that heals those wounds. That's why I made this graphic. The "it ends with us" is referring to stopping generational bad habits from reaching your children, not physical harm. But your life story and the struggle that you are having in real time with your mother, the mother of your children, and your daughter is a direct parallel to the play turned movie Fences. And I'm going to connect those dots for you and show you why patriarchy is to blame for all of this. But first, let me play this clip for reference.
How come you ain't never liked me?
Who the hell said I got to like you? I asked you a question.
What law is there say I got to like you?
None.
All right then. Don't you eat every day?
Yes, sir.
You eat every day.
Yes, sir.
Got a roof over your head.
Yes, sir.
Got clothes on your back.
Yes, sir.
Why you think that is?
Because of you.
Hell, I know it's because of me. But why do you think that is?
Because you like me.
You're about the biggest fool I ever saw. It's my job. It's my responsibility. A man is supposed to take care of his family. You live in my house, fill your belly with my food, put your behind on my bed because you're my son. Because I like you, because it's my duty to take care of you. I owe a responsibility to you. Now let's get this straight right here and now before I go along any further. I ain't got to like you. Now I don't give you everything I got to give you. I give you your life. Me and your mama worked that out between us, and liking your black ass wasn't part of the bargain. Now don't you go through life worrying about whether somebody like you or not. You best be making sure they're doing right by you.
Okay, let's start with some of the surface level parallels. First, with fences, you have a 10-year age gap at least between Troy and Rose. Troy got with Rose because he needed stability. He still ended up having an affair, and the mistress got pregnant and passed away during childbirth. So he had to ask his wife to raise this unexpected and initially unwanted child from his mistress, which she did. However, from then on, they basically just had a marriage on paper until Troy passed away. It was cold and loveless. And in the scene that you just saw, Troy was telling his son Corey that as a man, it is his duty to provide for his family. So it doesn't matter if I love you or basically spend time with you as long as I'm a provider. Now to Ryan's life, starting with his parents, who also had an age gap marriage that Ryan hesitates to give the exact number on because I believe that basically it was illegal. She had her first pregnancy at 13 and had had 4 children by the age of 19. The marriage was toxic and his mother was mistreated. She stayed out of obligation, and the father later divorced and then remarried another woman, having a new child, and the newest baby is younger than Ryan's own kids. Now to Ryan's relationship with the mother of his children, who actually never wanted children, just had the children for Ryan because she was in love. So much in love that she actually continued to work and let him quit his job to go and pursue his dreams. Now, the pregnancy, even though she didn't initially want it, she did go through with it and almost passed away during childbirth, which he still holds some guilt for. The relationship, despite all of her sacrifices, ended up not working out. So he has the money and the fame that he was after, but he has now lost his family. So let's look at how the patriarchal provider myth is still causing a generational rift. So basically, your mother's relationship is fractured with you, and you ultimately are angry with your father for that, and that is rightfully placed. However, I noticed that while you are on speaking terms with your father, you're not with your mother. And a part of that is because of your mother's resistance and basic disillusionment. Her whole life has been spent with the same man who has, after ruining her childhood and giving her a miserable marriage, has packed up and left and moved on with someone else. And I can't imagine the mental trauma that she's facing and how that has impacted the way she communicates or the lack of communication between her and her children. However, you not answering the phone for her, but then still buying her a house is not fixing things. Money won't fix this. Your mother is going to have to heal on her own. And you buying a house to basically apologize for being born and making up for your father's mistakes is unhealthy. It's not going to work. And then now moving on with the mother of your children. To be clear, you are not paying it forward. You're paying her back because she first invested in you, in your dreams and your career, which you wouldn't have if she basically weren't your sponsor. And now, just like your father, after saddling her with these children, the family unit is fractured. So once again, you're getting to move on and live out your life in happiness, and you have your dream, but you no longer have your family. And then lastly, we have you trying to buy things with your daughter are basically just spending more money than you are spending time, and then low-key sounding resentful because she finds that you are unreliable and undependable for anything else. See, the root cause for all of this is the patriarchy. It's the reason for the gender wars and the male loneliness epidemic. And that's because you all are begging for a time where women are your property again, and where women are totally, completely dependent upon you and basically forced to be with you and obey you. And you're so busy looking at that as some sort of benefit of patriarchy that you're not looking at this glaring fact that the patriarchy was never designed to benefit anybody other than wealthy, white, land-owning men. So that's the reason why poor and middle-class men are having such a difficult time with it. You have been still told, even though the laws that kept that in place have been abolished or ended 50 years ago, you are still hanging on to the fact that as long as you earn money and pay bills, that the women and children are supposed to be obedient and nothing else will be required of you. And those days are done. And being a provider doesn't necessarily mean being a protector. I don't want you to have to find out the hard way in the way that D.L. Hughley did. And I don't want you to have to go through years of not speaking in the way that Monique did. Whereas it was incredibly brave and transparent of them to share these stories, they're actually terrifying. You had his secret child lose its life while he was keeping it a secret and not there to protect, and then had his daughter be violated. And when she told her daddy, who's supposed to be her hero, he didn't even believe her. And then, Monique and her son had their rounds publicly. And so don't think that it can't happen to a son. He might look at you as a hero now, but how many times of you not showing up and not being there is it going to take for him to feel like he can't depend on you either? It is imperative that you keep doing the work. No matter what people are talking about and dragging you for now, stay the course in therapy. It helps. That's why I'm choosing to focus on the fact that Ryan is at least trying to get it right versus his poor word choice. Because I'm telling you, you're going to blink your eyes, 10 years will pass and she'll be at her college graduation. And even though she's going to look like this, every time you look at her, she's still going to look like this. She'll always be your baby. The patriarchy has steered you wrong. The objective is no longer just to be a provider. As a man, your goal should be to be the type of man that you want your daughters to be with and the type of man you want your son to be. And if we're being honest, most of the men listening do not fit that standard. And therefore, most of the women listening, you did not choose the right type of men or don't have the right type of men in your life. So let us all get off our moral high horse and stop trying to single out Ryan for something that the vast majority of this community has fallen victim of or has experienced in one form or aspect or another. Instead, let's focus on being the one to end the generational trauma in our own families. Like, share, subscribe, and hype me up.